Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Tourism and Hospitality Service Management, SOTHSM, Master's Degree. Master of Tourism and Travel Management, MTTM. Semester 3. MTTM-09 Understanding Tourism Markets. Unit 1 Tourism Markets. 1.0 Objectives. After reading this unit you will be able to times have a conceptual background of the tourism markets, times profile tourism market, and times understand many features of these markets. 1.1 Introduction. You have already read about profiling of tourists and the data related to it being published by Department of Tourism, Government of India, in its annual report, CTS2 and TS6. This profiling is used by different segments of the tourism industry for devising their own marketing plans and strategies along with segmenting the markets in relation to their own products or for designing products based on market segmentation. For example, transport operators will use it for designing different modes of transport for different segments of this market. Hoteliers will make best use of this to design their own products supported by intangible elements like services and experiences. In this unit, an attempt has been made to familiarize you with various aspects of tourism markets like basic concepts and features. The unit also gives you an idea of the top international tourism markets for India and the profile of tourists originating from these markets. 1.2 Tourism Markets, a conceptual background. As stated above in TS2 and TS6, you have studied tourism markets as tourist generating markets and tourist receiving markets. Even within these two broad categories of markets we have domestic tourist markets, regional tourist markets, etc. Intra-regional and inter-regional tourist market. If we go into further classification of tourist markets, you will see that in domestic or regional tourist market we have pilgrim tourist market, cultural tourist market, business corporate travel market, youth tourist market, special interest tourist market, so on and so forth. Same is the case for foreign markets. The tourist markets can further be classified on the basis of type of services required by them. For instance, 5-star tourist market, budget class tourist market, incentive tourist market, etc. This clearly indicates that different tourist markets react in different way. Hence, markets are heterogeneous rather than homogeneous. No buyers or potential buyers of a product are ever identical in all respects. Therefore, it becomes imperative to know your markets well to be a successful marketer of your product. Adequate knowledge of markets also makes possible for you to tailor your products and marketing programs or service that are suitable for each segment you intend to cater to. Since a market is not only an aggregate demand for a product but also the sum of the demands of different market segments, therefore, for getting a positive response in the market, it is essential that you as a marketer are well aware of your markets. According to Philip Kotler, it is the concept of exchange that leads to the concept of a market. A market consists of all the potential customers sharing a particular need or want who might be willing and able to engage in exchange to satisfy need or want. Thus, the size of the market largely depends upon the number of persons who exhibit the need, have resources that interest others, and are willing to offer these resources in exchange for what they want. In its old context, market is seen as a place where buyers and sellers gather to engage in exchange, such as village melas or chalks, squares. To an economist, market is a collection of buyers and sellers. However, to a marketer, sellers constitute the industry and buyers constitute the market. According to Philip Kotler, relationship between the two can be illustrated as Figure 1. Relationship between industry and market. Look at the screen. This can to a large extent be applied to tourism markets where principal suppliers like hoteliers, airlines, road transport operators, tour operators, travel agents, etc. constitute the industry and they communicate their market, i.e., both actual and potential, existing as well as future product lines to match the needs of consumers. Once in the tourist market, this exchange materializes and consumer consumes the product. Feedback is awaited for further improvement of product and strengthening of relationship.
There is another set of people who use the term markets to express various groups of customers, viz. 1. Need markets, specific need-based tourist, honeymooners want to visit solitude places. 2. Product markets, tourists who want in exchange value for their money. Like incentive social tourist. 3. Demographic markets, tourists belonging to different age groups. Youth would enjoy Thailand as a destination. Middle age group would enjoy Singapore. Senior tourist may enjoy a landscape of United Kingdom more, particularly Scotland or Ireland. Women tourist may like to visit Dubai for shopping, etc. 4. Geographic markets, as you have studied in Tiers 2 and Tiers 3 profiling. Characteristics of tourists from different countries. If you look at modern economies, you will find that it abounds in markets. According to Philip Kotler, the structure of flows in a modern exchange economy is given below. Figure 2. Figure 2. Flow in a modern exchange economy. It indicates that modern economies operate on the principle of division of labor, where each person specializes in the production of something, receives payment and buys things needed with this money. If you look at the above given figure, it says that manufacturer goes to resource markets for raw material, labor, finance, etc., buy them and turn them into goods or services, sell them to middlemen, who in return sell them to consumers. The consumers sell their labor for which they receive money, income to pay for goods and services they buy. Government in this figure is yet another market playing two roles, buying goods from resource manufacturers and middlemen markets and pays them as well as taxes these markets and in return provide required public services. Thus, each nation's economy consists of a complex set of markets which are linked through exchange processes. Interestingly, when we talk of tourism markets, generally speaking the reference is to tourism generating markets. However, you should note that beside the tourism generating markets, i.e., the tourists, for various segments of the tourism industry, there will be different types of markets. For example, for a tourist transport operator, the market consists of tour operators, travel agents or hotels who buy his product for consumption by tourists. A hotelier also sells rooms to tour operators or travel agents besides direct selling to tourists. Hence again, though the ultimate consumer is the tourist, but the sales would be geared to tour operators, etc. In fact, according to Paul F.J. Eagles, understanding the market means understanding the place, goods, consumer preferences, demand, available opportunities, and the enterprise of buying and selling. 1.3. Profiling tourism merit. Tourism market is a combination of tourist generating area, journeys by tourists and the volume of travel. In other words, it is a combination of actual or potential tourists who buy or tour or could tour or buy, or it is the actual and potential demand for a tourism product based on a specific tourism motivation or purpose. When we talk about tourist-generating markets, we talk about geographical regions with peculiar characteristics. These have been discussed in subsequent subsections. Knowledge of tourist-generating markets is essential for the marketing of tourism products or services. This helps you not only in segmenting the market but also in targeting your customers. Take for example two countries. Country A has a sound economy, people love to travel and so on. Country B has a poor economy, people have no surplus to spend on travel. Naturally, the marketer of tourism products will target country A. Before taking up certain issues, let us understand some basic concepts. According to the Department of Tourism, Government of India, an international visitor is any person visiting the country on a foreign passport, and the main purpose of the visit is other than the exercise of an activity remunerated from within the country or establishment of residence in the country. In this definition, two segments of visitors are covered. 1. Foreign tourists who stay at least 24 hours in India and the purpose of whose journey can be classified under any one of the following. A. Leisure, recreation, health, study, holiday, religion and sport. B. Business, family, mission or meeting. The following three categories are not regarded as tourists. A. Persons arriving with or without a contract to take up an occupation or engage in activities remunerated from within the country. B. Persons coming to establish residence in the country. C. Persons who come as excursionists. 2. Excursionist is a visitor who stays less than 24 hours in the country. Those visitors who arrive in the country by cruise ships and do not spend a night at an accommodation establishment in the country are mentioned as cruise passengers. These definitions are useful while identifying the markets or tourism generating regions and also for data collection. The statistics regarding world tourism movements like arrivals, departures, tourism receipts and expenditure, etc. are collected from the various bulletins and publications of the World Tourism Organization, WTO. The Market Research Division of the DOT also collects data and compiles it in the form of tourism statistics annually. For example, 1. The arrival statistics are compiled from disembarkation cards filled in by the foreign tourists at the time of their entry into India at either the airports, seaports, or land checkposts. 2. The average duration of stay is estimated on the basis of a sample drawn from the embarkation cards filled by the tourists at the time of their departure from India at the exit points. 3. The data about nationality, age, sex, etc. is also obtained through similar means. This kind of data is helpful in profiling the tourists but has its limitations for the purposes of marketing. For example, in 2000 India received 21,52,926 tourists from Germany. We also know how many out of these were women or men or to which age group they belonged. But in order to know their motivation, type of services expected by them, etc., one has to conduct special surveys. Generally, such tasks are performed by the overseas regional offices of the DOT along with carrying out the promotional campaigns, advertising and image building exercises for India. Let us first look at the World Tourism Markets. 1st March 2001 World Tourist Markets. A variety of factors determine the flow of tourists. Sound economy, surplus incomes, travel and holiday attitudes, search for leisure time, incentives for travel by employers, number of holidays and vacations, political conditions and travel advisories by government are some factors to be taken note of in this regard. An analysis of the data available shows that the major tourist-generating markets in the world have been the developed countries. Today all destinations are in intense competition with each other to get a larger share in the market. Table 1 gives you the international tourist arrivals worldwide any by regions 1991 to 2000. Table 1. International tourist arrivals worldwide and by regions 1991 to 2000, arrivals in millions. Look at the screen. For a good marketer, it is essential to know where the tourists were heading from. These 15 top tourist generating markets. The answer is provided in Table 2, which gives you the figures for 15 top countries in terms of tourist arrivals in the year 2000.
Table 2, International Tourist Arrivals, 2000. Look at the table. In terms of regional distribution of international tourist arrivals, Western Europe continues to attract the maximum number, getting 32.6% share out of total tourist arrival in India. However, it has declined substantially from 59.3% in 1993. The share of South Asia in 2000 was 25.2%, followed by North America at 13.5%, Southeast Asia, 5.7%, Africa, 5.5%, East Asia, 5.0%, West Asia, 4.5%, Australasia, 4.1%, Eastern Europe, 2.4%, CS America, 1.5%. If we look at it from the perspective of percentage in growth, then North America recorded in the year 2000 maximum growth of 21.8%, followed by West Asia, 16.4%, Australasia, 12.9%, Central and South America, 6.9%, South Asia, 6.29%, Africa, 5.3%, Southeast Asia, 3.4%, East Asia, 2.2%, West Europe, 0.3%. Eastern Europe recorded negative growth rate of -0.8%. Europe continues to attract the maximum numbers, getting 59.3% share out of the total world arrivals in 1993. However, there has been a decline in its share over the years, as in 1980 it was 66% and 62.6% in 1990. The share of East Asia and the Pacific region in 1993 was 13.7%, which is an increasing trend, as in 1980 it was 7.3% and 11.4% in 1990. Africa and America have shown static figures, whereas the Middle East has shown a declining trend, from 2.1% in 1980 to 1.4% in 1993. Let us see where India stands in this scenario. Well, the figures are: world tourist arrivals, 2000, equals 698.3 million. Tourist arrivals in India, 2000, equals 2.15 million. Percentage share of India equals 0.38%. India's rank in world tourist arrivals equals 50th. However, in terms of foreign exchange receipts, the percentage share of India is almost double than that of arrivals. World tourism receipts, 2000, equals 435.9 billion United States dollars. Estimated foreign exchange receipts equals 3,168 billion United States dollars. In India, 2000. Percentage share of India equals 0.67%. India's rank in world tourism receipts equals 34th. This indicates that in spite of a lower share in arrivals, the tourists spend more in India. And the average length of stay is about 28.7 days. This is an encouraging trend, because many of India's competitors like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, etc. receive a much bigger share in arrivals when compared to India, but with a lesser length of stay. There are certain new markets also opening up. For example, South Africa, Israel and the new states of Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, etc. have emerged as potential markets for India, and many tour operators have already entered the field. 1.3.2 markets for India. In terms of attractions, India, as a destination, is a strong tourism product. Culture, history, architecture, beaches, mountains, religions and ethnicity, etc. have traditionally been the pull factor for international tourists. Yet, infrastructure-wise, there are certain weaknesses which makes it less attractive. For example, accessibility, lack of international airports, big size of the country, lack of hotel rooms, etc. In spite of these weaknesses, India crossed the 2 million mark of tourist arrivals in 1995, total 2,123,683. The DOT is keeping a target of 5 million by 2005. Keeping in view the shortcomings, seems unrealistic. Yet the efforts will go on. The markets for India are determined by assessing the tourist arrivals from different countries. Table 3 gives the figure of 15 top countries during 1999-2000. Table 3, tourist arrivals in India from top 15 countries in 1999-2000. Look at the screen. Let us examine the trend in tourist arrivals, country-wise analysis. 1. United Kingdom. United Kingdom remained on the top of all tourist-generating countries for India with 354217 tourist arrivals during the year 2000. As compared to 116,684 arrivals during 1981, the average compound rate of growth was 6.0% per annum from 1981 to 2000. Year-wise tourist arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Look at the screen. Figure 3. Tourist arrivals from UK. During the year 2000, about 98.6% of the UK nationals came by air and 1.4% through land routes. 60.6% of the British tourists were males and the rest 39.4% were females. The most predominant age group was 35 to 44 with 24.9% of the tourists, followed by the age groups of 45 to 54 and 25 to 34. With 23.2% and 21.4% tourists, respectively. The maximum number of arrivals were recorded during winter months of October to December, 34.9%, and January to March, 31.3%, respectively. 2. United States of America. United States of America is presently the second largest market for India, though it occupied the top position till 1973. The tourists from this country have increased steadily over the years except during 1974, 1975, 1979, 1980, 1984 and 1988. Having registered positive growth during 1985. 1986, 1987, 1989, it showed a negative growth during 1990 and 1991. The arrivals during 1992, 1993, 19,994, 1995, 1996, 1997, 1998 and 1999 recorded a growth of 29.8%, 3.9%, 11.6%, 15.2%. 12.5%, 6.7%, 0.2% and 3.0%, respectively, over the previous years. The growth registered during 2000 was 22.8% over the year 1999. The arrivals grew from 82,052 in 1981 to 309,309 in 2000 at a compound growth rate of about 7.2% per annum. Year-wise tourist arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. During 2000, about 99.1% of the American tourists came by air and 0.9% by land. While 59.0% of the American tourists were male and the rest were females. The dominant age group among them was 35 to 44 years, 24.9%, followed by the age group 45 to 54 years, 23.9%, and 25 to 34 years, 18.9%, respectively. The maximum tourist arrivals during winter months of October to December, which accounted for 34.1% of the total arrivals from this country, followed by January to March, 25.6%. 92.0% of US nationals visited India for holidays and sightseeing, and 3.0% came for business. Figure 4. Tourist arrivals from USA. Look at the screen. 3. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka continued to occupy the third position among the tourist-generating countries for India, and constituted about 6.0% of the total foreign tourist arrivals in India during 2000. During 1984 and 1985, the traffic from Sri Lanka declined by 7.7% and 8.5%, respectively, though it registered an increase of 9.5% during 1986. Again, it declined by 1.7% in 1987, 5.0% in 1988, 4.2% in 1989. The traffic increased during the year 1990, 1991, 1992, 1993, 1994, 1995 by 1.1%, 2.5%, 2.6%, 6.9%, 15.7% and 28.3%. However, a decline of 6.0% and 3.1% was registered during 1996 and 1998 over the years 1995 and 1997. The traffic increased during 1997, 1999 and 2000 by 13.7%, 1.5% and 7.0% over the corresponding year of previous years. Arrivals from Sri Lanka, which were 75,842 in 1981, grew up to 128,444 in 2000 at a compound growth rate of 2.8% per annum. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 5. Tourist arrivals from Sri Lanka. Look at the screen. The peak period of Sri Lanka was the first quarter from January to March, constituting 26.8%. Followed by the fourth quarter from October to December with 25.7% during 2000. About 98.5% of the tourists traveled by air and 1.5% by land. About 54.4% of the Sri Lanka tourists were males. The dominant age group was 35 to 44 years. 29.0%, followed by the age group 25.34 year, 21.4%, and 45 to 54 years, 20.2%. 96.8% of Sri Lanka nationals visited India for holidays and sightseeing, and about 0.3% came for business. 4. Canada. Canada occupies the fourth position among the tourist-generating countries. The tourists' traffic to India was from Canada grew since 1981, a compound growth rate 7.4% per annum. The arrivals from this country during 2000 were 98,259 as compared to 25,358 during 1981. The arrivals increased steadily from 1972 onwards, except during 1984 when there was a decline of about 15.8%. It, however, registered an increase of 15.5% and 37.3% during 1985 and 1986, but went down by 5.4% and 0.5% during 1987 and 1988, respectively. Traffic increased during 1989 and 1990 by 7.5% and 1.8%, but decreased during 1991 by 11.9% over previous year. The traffic from Canada increased during 1992, 1993, 1994, 1995, 1996, 1997, 1998 and 1999 by 20.0%, 10.2%, 18.1%, 13.1%, 16.0%, 6.1%, 2.0%, and 3.5%, respectively. The year 2000 ended with an increase of 18.5% over 1999. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 6. Tourist arrivals from Canada. Look at the screen. The share of Canada in the total tourist traffic to India was about 4.6% during 2000. About 99.0% of the Canadian tourists visited India by air and 1.0% by land during 2000. About 68.1% of the Canadians were males and the age group which was predominant was 35 to 44 years, sharing 30.5% of the total, followed by the age group of 45 to 54 years, 24.7%. The October to December 2000 accounted for 30.9% of the arrivals, followed by the period January to March with 28.7%. 91.4% tourists from Canada visited India for holidays and sightseeing. 1.5% came for business. 5. Australia. During 2000, Australia occupied the 5th position among top 15 tourist-generating markets for India. The growth registered during 1988 to 1995 was 2.0%. Australia registered a phenomenal growth of 34.9% during 1996 over the year 1995. The growth registered during 1997, 1998 and 1999 was 3.9%, 14.1%, and 26.4%, respectively. Australia continued to register a positive growth during 2000 of the order 23.8% over 1999. The tourist traffic from Australia during 1981 was 20,940, which increased by 90,456 in 2000 with a compound growth rate of 8.0% per annum. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. The contribution of Australian tourists to the total traffic to India was about 4.2% in 2000. Figure 7. Tourist arrivals from Australia. Look at the screen. The air was predominant mode of transport for Australia, tourists constituting 98.2% of the total arrivals. Remaining tourists came through land routes. The male tourists constituted about 64.9% in 2000. The dominated age group was 35 to 44 years, accounting for 29.7% of the total tourists' arrivals, followed by the age group 45 to 54 years with 25.1%. The maximum number of Australian tourists came to India during October to December 2000, constituting about 32.5%, followed by the period January to March with 29.5%. 87.3% Australian tourists visited India for holidays and sightseeing and 6.5% came for business. 6. France. France occupied the 6th position among the tourist-generating countries for India and constituted about 4.2% of the foreign tourist arrivals in India during 2000. The arrivals grew from 57,272 in 1981 to 89,565 in 2000 at a compound growth rate of 2.4%. During 70s the growth achieved was in the range of 4% to 5.6%, but during 80s, especially from 1983 onwards, there was a negative trend. The arrivals during 1986, however, registered an increase of 49.6%. After having negative growth of 2.3% during 1987, arrivals showed positive growth during 1988 to 1990. However, the traffic declined by 12.8% and 4.9% during 1991 and 1993, but showed a positive growth of 7.1% during 1992. Again, the traffic increased by 3.4%, 12.7% and 13.3% during 1994, 1995 and 1996. The year 1997 witnessed a decline of 2.0% and there was an increase of 7.1%. During 1998, the traffic declined during 1999 of the order of 12.3% over 1998. The year 2000 ended with an increase of 4.3% over 1999. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 8. Tourist arrivals from France. Look at the screen. During 2000, about 98.2% of the French tourists used air route to visit India and remaining 1.8% used land route. About 60.7% of the French tourists were males. The age group 35 to 44 years accounted for 29.1%. Followed by age group 25 to 34 with 24.6%. The period from January to March was the most popular period of visit for the French tourists, constituting 30.8%, followed by the months of October to December with 26.0%. 90.6% of French nationals visited India for holidays and sightseeing. 3.6% came for business. 7. Germany. Nationals of Germany contributed about 3.9% of the foreign tourist arrivals in India during 2000 and occupied the 7th position amongst the major tourist-generating markets of India. The tourists from this country have been increasing steadily over the years, except during some of the years in 80s. The arrivals grew from 55,471 in 1981 to 84,989 in 2000 at a compound rate of growth of 2.3%. A substantial growth of about 41.7% was registered during 1986, followed by about 11.6%, 7.3% and 1.6% growth during 1987, 1988, and 1989, respectively. The traffic during 1990 declined by 9.4%, but there was increase of 0.9% and 17.2% during 1991 and 1992. The traffic from this country declines by 1.3% during 1993. However, the traffic increased by 2.4%, 4.3%. 12.1% and 6.1% during 1994, 1995, 1996 and 1997, respectively, but declined by 11.3% during 1998 and 9.5% during 1999. The traffic declined during 2000 of the order 0.1% over 1999. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 9. Tourist arrivals from Germany. Look at the screen. The most preferred mode of transport for the German tourists during 2000 was air, and it accounted for 97.9% of the arrivals and 2.1% used land routes. About 64.2% of the German tourists were males. The age group 35 to 44 years dominated the arrivals from this country with 28.7%, followed by 25 to 34 years with 23.6%. The age group of 45-54 years came next with 22.2%. The maximum number of tourists visited this country during January to March accounted for 35.0%, followed by fourth quarter, which accounted for 28.0%. 91.8% of German nationals visited India for holidays and sightseeing, and 5.0% came for business. 8. Japan. Japan is one of the most important tourist-generating markets of India in the East. Though the arrivals of Japan nationals were increasing steadily till 1980, it declined during 1981 and 1983 by 5.1% and 8.4%, respectively, over the corresponding previous years. During 1984, 1985, 1986, 1987, 1988, 1989 and 1990, the arrivals from this country again went up by 10.9%, 3.4%, 19.1%, 27.0%, 6.5%, 19.2% and 0.7%, respectively, as compared to corresponding previous years. However, it declined during 1991 by 21.1% over 1990. The arrivals from Japan during 1992 recorded phenomenal growth of about 28.9% over 1991. However, the arrivals during 1993 declined by 17.5% over the year 1992. The arrivals increased by 27.8%, 19.9%, 30.2% and 0.7%. During the year 1994, 1995, 1996 and 1997, respectively over the corresponding previous years. But in 1998 and 1999 there was a negative growth of 10.2% and 18.1% as compared to previous years. The year 2000 ended with a positive growth of 7.9% over the previous year. Year-wise, arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 10, tourist arrivals from Japan. Look at the screen. The contribution of Japanese tourists to the total arrivals in India was 3.7% during 2000. During this year about 94.5% of tourists came to India by air and 5.5% by land routes. About 66.3% of the Japanese tourists were males. The dominant age group of these tourists was 25 to 34 years, 26.3%, followed by the age group of 35 to 44 years, 25.3%. The maximum number of Japanese tourists, 25,195 or 31.8%, arrived during the months of January to March, while 89.6% of Japanese nationals visited India for holidays and sightseeing and 2.8% visited for business. 9. Malaysia. The growth registered during 1992, 1993, 1994, 1995, 1996 and 1997 was about 15.0%, 0.4%, 15.4%, 22.8%, 6.7% and 13.2% over previous years. Tourist traffic from Malaysia declined by 21.4% during 1998 but there was an increase of 10.8% during 1999. The year 2000 ended with a growth of 10.1%. The tourist traffic from Malaysia during 1981 was merely 26,458 which increased to 57,927 in 2000 with a compound growth rate of about 4.2% per annum. Year-wise, arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 11, tourist arrivals from Malaysia. Look at the screen. The contribution of Malaysian tourists to the total tourist traffic to India was 2.7% in 2000. The air was predominant mode of transport of Malaysian tourists constituting 99.0% of the total arrivals. Remaining tourists came through land routes. The male tourists constituted 53.2% in 2000. The dominated age group was 35 to 44 years, accounting for 30.3% of the total arrivals followed by the age group of 25 to 34 with 22.8%. The maximum number of tourists from Malaysia came to India during October to December 2000, constituting about 34.1% followed by the January to March with 26.4%. 95.7% tourists from Malaysia visited India for holidays and sightseeing and 0.4% came for business. 10. Italy. As has been the case with many of the important West European nationalities, the Italian tourist arrivals were also on the increase from 1987 to 1989. However, the arrivals during 1990 and 1991 showed a decline of about 3.1% and 16.4%, respectively. The arrivals from Italy during 1992 registered an increase of about 24.3% but the traffic declined during 1993 and it was about 21.2% over 1992. However, the traffic from this country increased by 7.9% and 21.8% during 1994 and 1995 over the years 1993 and 1994, respectively. During 1996 there is a decline of 5.9% over 1995. During 1997 and 1998 the traffic increased by 7.9% over 1996 and 0.4% over 1997. A negative growth of 6.3% was registered during 1999. The year 2000 ended with an increase of 3.7% over 1999. The arrivals grew from 28,503 in 1981 to 52,529 in 2000 at a compound growth rate of 3.3% per annum. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 1. Tourist arrivals from Italy. Look at the screen. The contribution of Italy tourists to the total tourists arrivals in India was 2.4% in 2000. The predominant mode of transport was air, constituting about 98.8% of the total tourist arrivals. Remaining tourists came through land routes. The male tourists constituted 63.4% of the total in 2000. The age group which dominated the arrivals was 35 to 44 years, accounting for 29.3% of the arrivals, followed by the age group 25 to 34 years with 24.3% during 2000. The quarter January to March 2000 accounted for maximum number of arrivals, constituting 34.9%, followed by the quarter October to December with 26.4%. 92.4% tourists from Italy visited India for holidays and sightseeing and 4.3% came for business. 11. Singapore. During 2000, Singapore occupied the 11th position among the major tourist-generating markets in India. The arrivals grew from 17,950 in 1981 to 49,198 in 2000 at a compound growth rate of about 5.4% per annum. The tourist with Singapore nationality increased steadily from 1982 to 1983. But negative growth of 9.6% and 3.7% was registered during 1984 and 1985, respectively, over the corresponding period of previous years. However, the arrivals during 1986, 1987, 1988, 1989 and 1990 recorded a growth of 30.9%, 9.1%, 4.5%, 6.6% and 10.9%, respectively over the corresponding period of previous years. A negative growth of 3.1% was registered during 1996. But again the year 1997 and 1998 witnessed positive growth of 10.3% and 4.5%. During 1999, there was negative growth of 1.9% as compared to the arrivals in the corresponding previous years. The year 2000 ended with a negative growth of 7.7%. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 13. Tourist arrivals from Singapore. Look at the screen. The contribution of tourists with Singapore nationality to the total tourist arrivals in India was 2.3% in 2000. The predominant mode of transport was air, constituting about 99.9% of the total tourist arrivals. Remaining tourists came through land routes. The male tourists constituted 55.2% of the total in 2000. The age group which dominated the arrivals was 35 to 44 years, accounting for 28.4% of the arrivals, followed by the age group 25 to 34 years with 23.6% during 2000. The quarter October to December 2000 accounted for maximum number of arrivals, constituting 30.2%, followed by the quarter January to March with 25.1%. 90.8% tourists from Singapore visited India for holidays and sightseeing and 8.5% came for business. 12. Netherlands. During 2000, Netherlands occupied the 12th position among the major tourist-generating markets. In India, the arrivals grew from 10,780 in 1981 to 45,398 in 2000 at a compound growth rate of about 7.9% per annum. A negative growth of 10.0% was registered during 1999 as compared to previous years. The year 2000 ended with a negative growth of 7.0% over 1999. Year-wise, arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. The contribution of Netherlands tourists during 2000 to the total traffic to India was about 2.1%. The air was predominant mode of transport to Netherlands tourists constituting 97.4% of the total arrivals. Remaining tourists came through land routes. The male tourists constituted about 64.6% in 2000. The dominated age group was 35 to 44 years, accounting for 25.8% of the total arrivals, followed by the age group 25 to 34 years with 26.0%. The maximum number of Netherlands tourists came to India during January to March 2000, constituting 32.2%, followed by the period October to December 2000 with 26.8%. 90.0% of the Netherlands nationals visited India for holidays and sightseeing, and about 9.0% came for business. Look at the screen. Figure 15. Tourist arrivals from Netherlands. 13. Switzerland. During 2000, Switzerland occupied the 13th position among the top 15 tourist-generating markets. For India, the arrivals grew from 14,444 in 1981 to 31,402 in 2000 at a compound growth rate of about 4.3% per annum. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 15. Tourists' arrivals from Switzerland. Look at the screens. The contribution of Switzerland tourists during 2000 to the total traffic to India was about 1.5%. The air was predominant mode of transport for Switzerland tourists constituting 97.7% of the total arrivals. The male tourists constituted 63.7% in 2000. The dominated age group was 35 to 44 years, accounting for 28.0% of the total arrivals, followed by the age group 25 to 34 years with 24.9%. The maximum number of Switzerland tourists came to India during January to March 2000, constituting 33.9%, followed by the period October to December 2000 constituting 27.2%. 91.8% of the Switzerland nationals visited India for holidays and sightseeing, and about 6.4% came for business. 14. South Africa. South Africa occupies the 14th position among the tourist-generating countries for India and constituted about 1.2% of the foreign tourist arrivals in India during 2000. The arrivals grew from 9,917 in 1981 to 26,502 in 2000 at a compound growth rate of 5.3%. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 16. Tourist arrivals from South Africa. Look at the screen. The peak period of South African tourists was the fourth quarter from October to December 2000, constituting 34.9%, followed by first quarter from January to March with 30.1% during 2000. 98.6% of the tourists traveled by air and 1.4% by land routes. About 51.7% South African tourists were males. The dominated age group was 35 to 44 years, accounting for 24.0% of the total arrivals, followed by the age group 45 to 54 years with 22.4%. 92.8% of South African visited India for holidays and sightseeing, and about 4.8% came for Business.
15. Israel. Israel occupied the 15th position among the tourists-generating countries for India and constituted about 1.2% of the foreign tourist arrivals in India during 2000. The arrivals grew from 2,569 in 1981 to 25,005 in 2000 at a compound growth of rate of 12.7%. Year-wise arrivals are given in Table 4. The following graph exhibits yearly trends in the tourist arrivals from this country. Figure 17. Tourist arrivals from Israel. Look at the screen. During 2000, about 92.6% of Israel tourists used air route to visit India and remaining 7.4% use land route. About 62.2% of Israel tourists were males. The age group 25 to 34 years accounted for 25.4%. Followed by age group 45.54 with 22.4%. The period from October to December was the most popular period of visit for the Israel tourist, constituting 34.7%, followed by the months of January to March with 27.5%. 91.1% of Israel nationals visited India for holidays and sightseeing and 7.0% came for business. 1.4 Features of tourism markets for India. Table 5 gives the percentages of foreign tourist arrivals during the year 1999-2000. It indicates that growth during first quarter was 4.8%, quarter ending June recorded increase of 10.6%, third quarter ending September witnessed an increase of 6.1% and last quarter saw an increase of 5.6% over the corresponding period of previous year. Winter months first and fourth quarter and summer months second and third quarters recorded arrivals of 59.0% and 41.0%, respectively. Table 5. Quarterly breakup of tourist arrivals during 1999-2000. Table 6. Season of tourist arrival quarterly. Table 8 gives the percentage of age groups of foreign tourists. It shows that the maximum arrivals are in the age group of 25 to 34 and 35 to 44. Table 9 gives the proportion of tourists according to sex. It shows that the number of women foreign tourists is increasing every year. Table 7. Peak and lean months of arrivals during 2000. Look at the screen. Table 8. Tourist arrivals according to age groups during 2000. Table 9. Tourist arrivals according to gender during 2000. Table 10 gives the data of tourist arrivals according to their purpose of visit during 2000. It clearly indicates that India is able to establish itself as a holiday and leisure market, 91.6%. Table 10. Tourist arrivals according to purpose of visit during 2000. Look at the screen. 1.5 Intra-regional and domestic markets. We have seen earlier that intra-regional tourist flows are on the higher side in Europe, East Asia and America. In relation to India, Table 11 gives you the figures of arrivals from neighboring countries. Table 11. Tourist arrivals in India. Look at the screen. When compared with the tourist flows in other parts of the world, the number of intra-regional tourists visiting India is not very encouraging. Political conditions and relations have been playing major role in this regard. However, it is time that efforts should be made to increase the tourist flows. The SAARC nations have initiated measures in this regard, and the tour operators, travel agents, hoteliers, and airlines from these countries are joining hands not only to encourage intra-regional tourism but also to jointly sell South Asia destinations in other markets. South Asian Travel and Tourism Exchange, SATTE, Mart has been scheduled in India every year to showcase as sellers of the combined tourism products. The Indian tourism industry is also targeting the markets in neighboring countries to increase the market share. This exercise is to be based on the various approaches for market segmentation dealt with in Unit 4. In this section we provide certain information in regard to the domestic tourist market in India. The Department of Tourism, Government of India had conducted a pilot survey of domestic tourists at 22 centers spread all over the country in 1981-82. Besides the findings of this survey, not much data is available except for the statistics of arrivals collected by some state tourism departments. Based on this pilot survey, tables 12 to 21 provide you certain information about domestic tourists. Table 12. State-wise origin of domestic tourists, 1981-82. Table 13. Travel habits. Table 14. Average length of stay. Table 15. Expenditure pattern. Table 16. Accommodation used. Table 17. Modes of transport used. Table 18. Occupational status. Table 19. Income status, in rupees. Table 20. Purpose of travel. Table 21 age-wise breakup. Look at the screen. The data provided in tables 12 to 21 is slightly outdated as the year of survey in 1981-82. However, certain trends which emerge through this data are relevant. For example, age is an important factor, with 30 to 55 years being the largest group, followed by 13 to 29 years. Table 21. Table 13 indicates that majority of domestic tourists travel with family. Leisure, business and pilgrimage remain the dominant purpose of travel. Table 20. People from business, service and professionals form the bulk of the tourist market. Table 18.
Majority of tourists come from middle class and upper middle class. Table 19. Domestic tourists don't go for long holidays, average 5.4 days, as compared to foreign tourists, whose average length of stay in India is 28.4 days. Table 14. Rail travel remains the dominant mode of travel. Table 17. Most of these trends also get reflected from the data collected at destinations by the local authorities. For example, a survey conducted by the tourist office at Ranikhet Hill Station in Kumaon Hills of UP in 1987 gave following results. Occupation-wise, 35.5% tourists were from government service, 24.7% from private sector, 19.4% from business and 4.3% professionals, followed by 12.3% others. 90.3% tourists were from the age group 21 to 50 years. Region-wise, 41% tourists were from West Bengal, 29% from North and 19% from Maharashtra and Gujarat. Compare this trend with Table 12. The results of the survey conducted by the Himachal Pradesh also gave similar indicators. Occupation-wise, business had a share of 49.5%, professions 8.4%, service 28.4%, agriculture 4.6% and students 4.6%. Tourists belonging to northern states were 89.75%, followed by western states 5.5% and eastern states 3.1%. Again, income-wise, the upper middle class share was 33.5%, followed by middle class 58.0%, etc. The tastes and trends among the domestic sector are also changing fast. For example, adventure and ecotourism is picking up. Weekend travel to nearby destinations is increasing. Group travel by school children and college students is on the increase. Tourists are demanding special packages and services, particularly among the higher income groups. Beside LTC travel by government employees, private sector employees are also getting travel incentives. The number of honeymooners is increasing. Expenditure on shopping is increasing with a demand for ethnic products and handicrafts. Pilgrimage is being mixed with leisure. Conventions tourism is picking up. Marriage groups have started using the services of domestic tour operators. The frequency of travel for leisure is going up, with people taking more than one trip in a year, etc. The importance of domestic tourism has been acknowledged by the government and efforts are being made to provide better facilities for domestic tourists. Destinations like Goa are targeting the domestic market during off-season. Domestic Tour Operators Association has also been formed with the aim to highlight the problems in their area. Domestic tourism markets are mainly concentrated in big and medium towns and the countryside market, which is yet to be explored. Table 22. Estimated domestic tourist visits during 1998 to 2000. Look at the screen. Table 23. Estimated region-wise domestic tourist visits during 1998 to 2000. 1.5 Summary. Every product, service produced by a manufacturer, producer needs a market for its consumption, or as a vice versa, the consumer, in order to satisfy his, her needs certain products and services. Since tourism products and services not only have peculiar characteristic feature, but travel trends and demand also changes so fast that these tourist generating markets have to be studied carefully. Though organizations like World Tourism Organization and World Travel and Tourism Council publishes their statistics relating to preferences and whims of tourists coming from these countries, yet every producer, manufacturer of this trade is advised to carry out his or her primary study of market he or she wish to cater. It is only after this careful analysis of profile of tourists that you can produce both tangible product and its intangible services. This unit gives you an idea of world's top tourist generating markets and spenders so that you can know which part of world has potential market segment for you. You have a wide variety to choose from. You can concentrate upon a niche market, or you may decide to cater to mass markets. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.